Devon Derby in April, with Argyle going for promotion. Quite simply, the biggest game of the season.
Rhythm. 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 Rhythm.
Good morning. How are we all feeling? It is crunch time, isn't it, now for Argyle? 6 games to go. 3 weeks left of the season. 3 weeks that could determine Argyle's season. Quite simply, today is the biggest game of the season to date. Now, the last time Argyle and Exeter City met, as we've just seen, it was a wet and wild day here at Home Park. It couldn't be more different this afternoon. The sun is shining. We're towards the end of the season, the real crunch time of the season. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be any less hostile or difficult at St James Park this afternoon. Quite potentially a pivotal game this season. I'm delighted to have former Argyle striker Ian Stonebridge, who is a veteran of 6 previous Devon derbies, unbeaten, 5 wins, 1 draw. That's not a bad record. And of course, scorer of a wonderful winner at St James Park.
Yeah, I did check, Charlie. I looked it up. A couple of them were sub-appearances, so I can't really claim huge credit for all of those. But no, it's nice to not be on the losing side in this game, obviously. And yeah, some good games over the years, some great memories, if not, the best memory of my Argyle career, ultimately up at Exeter.
Yeah. I mean, they are massive games anyway, aren't they? But this one just seems to have a little bit extra on it.
It does, Argyle's season as it's gone, we find ourselves in a fantastic position in the league. Despite perhaps coming into this particular game, off not the best run we've had. But yeah, it's huge. So if it wasn't already big enough, the stakes for Argyle are obviously even higher, given what this could do in terms of the promotion push.
Well, I mentioned your goal a little bit earlier. Let's have a look at it now. I mean, as soon as you were on, we had to have a look at it. Talk me through this, Ian. I don't think I've ever seen you jump so high.
Yeah, I think the long run-up is the secret there, Charlie. So you can see, after I laid it off to Buster, trying to get into the box on the end of it, and it's a fantastic cross. Buster's wing play was second to none in his time here, and you always knew that there was going to be a delivery, and that one's no exception, curling towards me, and yeah, it's nice to get up above a centre back, and yeah. Surely
no better feeling. I mean, looking at everything in that, it's the last minute of the game, behind in the match as well, coming back in front of the big bank, their main supporter base, to score that. It must just have been an incredible feeling.
Yeah, I think you can kind of see in the chaos of the celebration that nobody quite knew where to go or what to do. Buster obviously was back at one of his former clubs, and he really made the most of it that night. He had a huge influence on that game, and yeah, it's as you say, it's no better feeling. And over the years, it's a really nice memory for lots of people that were at the game, and as well as us who were involved in it.
Some of these players here will be hoping that they can do something similar to you this afternoon. Shortest journey of the season which means that the players were leaving here at Home Park probably about an hour or so ago. A bit different to normal. Normally it's an overnight stay. Normally it's a long bus journey, but this one, well, you'd imagine much more pleasant for the players.
Yeah, the change in timing of the kick-off obviously is another factor that all the players have to deal with, not just Argyle, obviously Exeter as well. But yeah, the short journey is quite a different prospect. Obviously playing down here, you get used to those long miles on the coach, on the motorways, and yeah, it's a refreshing difference to just have to nip up that A38 and get to Exeter. So yeah, they should be nice and fresh for this, and we'll see in terms of the lineup how much that impacts on today's game in terms of bringing that freshness into the squad.
Yeah, we'll have a look at the lineup in just a minute. Watching the coach leaving there were Argyle supporters that were not up at the crack of dawn as well for an away game, which is always a pleasant thing for them. Allocation sold out within minutes really when they went on sale. Another packed out away ground. Again, for supporters, it's a short journey, it's a happy journey, but it is as much for the supporters as anyone, isn't it, this match, a derby game like this?
Yeah, it's absolutely vital. It's the bragging rights in the local area. It's the derby that everyone looks forward to. And I know when there's seasons when Argyle and Exeter aren't in the same division or don't have fixtures against each other, it never quite has the same feel. So certainly this year, it was an unbelievable game here at Home Park earlier on in the year, and hopefully we can have a similarly entertaining game today, but maybe a bit more comfortable for Argyle would be nice.
Definitely prefer it to be a little bit more comfortable, that is for sure. I can guarantee it probably won't be. But coming up over the next 40 minutes or so, we will be building up to the game, 12 o'clock kickoff, of course, and you can watch the game live on Argyle TV. Just head over to our website, pafc.co.uk, click on the Argyle TV tab. Match passes available for £10 for this afternoon's game. I know lots of people would love to be at St James Park, but if you're not, then this is the best place to watch it, no doubt. Well, coming up over the next 40 minutes or so, we'll be hearing from Stephen Schumacher. We'll actually be hearing from Ian again in VT form, looking back at previous matches at St James Park. But first, we'll bring you the team news. Probably one of the most hotly anticipated team news bits of the season, and 6 changes made by Stephen Schumacher for this one from Monday's defeat against Lincoln City. No spot for Ryan Hardy. He's dropped to the bench. Ennis and Cosgrove coming back in. And also, you might notice no Barley Mumba. There was hope that he might be able to make the squad for this afternoon's game. He hasn't been able to win that race, but Adam Randall has. He takes a spot on the bench. Ian, looking at the side, 6 changes is a lot of changes. We're used to a lot of changes at the moment. But you spoke about freshness and bringing energy to the side. What are your thoughts on this lineup? Yeah,
I mean, we expected changes, and I think that almost even more expected after the last game, and yeah, the opportunity to come in and get a starting place in a game of this magnitude is a fantastic opportunity for lots of those players, some of whom have had perhaps fewer opportunities to start games. So for them it's what an opportunity to go out and grab the bull by the horns, take the game to Exeter, make a name for yourself. You can write yourself into Argyle's history and by doing well and putting in a strong performance in games like this. So no surprise really with the changes, and I think it brings a real freshness, particularly to Argyle's attacking lineup today.
Yeah, the attack in particular is the talking point, isn't it? Ryan Hardy, who's started the last 6 or 7, top scorer of course, he's missing out. Cosgrove and Ennis partnered up front with Finn Azaz in behind. That's 3 forward changes from the last game.
Yeah, I mean Ryan Hardy, perhaps in recent games, we know he's a player that thrives on a certain type of service, and part of that will be Argyle haven't quite managed to deliver the ball into areas that he can thrive on. He's not quite maybe made the most of the opportunities he has had. So it's again no surprise to see Sam Cosgrove and Niall Ennis come into the lineup, and it's, I think, an exciting pairing, and Finn Azaz as well. Recently perhaps not seen the best of him. He had a fantastic start to this season. So I'm fully confident that as a 3 they can offer plenty of threat to Exeter today.
Just a quick word on Adam Randall, someone you know well. He's been out since February, since the game against Portsmouth. It's a long time, but he's been back in training. He's been looking good in training, and he will be absolutely champing at the bit, won't he, for the final 5-6 games of the season to really make an impact.
Yeah, he will. A little bit of speculation, I think, perhaps amongst the supporters about whether they might throw him straight in today. But it's a big occasion to come straight back in again without actually getting on the pitch since his injury in terms of the first team games. It's a big ask perhaps. So yeah, he's a really good option to have on that bench today. He's a different type of midfielder than Argyle have got elsewhere in the squad, and I do think it's something that we've missed since he's been out. So great to see him back in the squad, and yeah, again, hopefully he can get on and make the difference today.
I think no doubt he'll probably get on at some stage today. I hope he goes well. Let's have a look at the Exeter City side then. They obviously are out to spoil Argyle's party. They're very much comfortable in mid-table at the minute, winless in their last 3 matches, but obviously up for this one. And if Barley Mumba was a talking point before this game from an Argyle point of view, Jay Stansfield was a talking point from an Exeter City point of view. He has won his race and actually is in from the start. There were fears in a couple of weeks ago when he went off in the game against Fleetwood that could be his season over, and he was just starting to hit a bit of form. I think he was nominated for the Player of the Month, scored a great goal against Barnsley, was really instrumental. From an Argyle point of view, it's not great to see his name on that team sheet, but from an Exeter City point of view, they will be delighted by that.
Yeah, they will. Again, you can understand, on their part why they're so keen to get him back in the squad. Dangerous striker. He showed that in the game here earlier in the season, and a local player who knows exactly what this fixture means. So all of that adds up to mean he's a formidable opponent for Argyle today. But again, hopefully we can be confident in that back line of Argyle to keep him quiet.
You mentioned local players as well. Adam Randall, obviously the one for Argyle. Michael Cooper out injured. Exeter City have a lot in their side. They're obviously famed for the academy and bringing players through, but Jay Stansfield's one of them. You've got Archie Collins in there, Josh Key, Harry Kite, Alex Hartridge. They're all starting. Jack Sparks on the bench. If anyone's going to know about the game, it will be those players, won't it?
Yeah, they do. And having coached in Argyle's academy for a number of years, you see that right the way through the age groups. The players, Argyle and Exeter, both understand the meaning of the local derby. They understand the expectation and the competitiveness that's required. So again, whether that's a slight advantage for Exeter in having those local players in the squad, there's also that additional pressure for them, because again, it builds it up for them. It takes on that even more importance, and whether that some people thrive on that, some people perhaps find that a bit of an issue, but it's certainly something that Exeter will have considered, I'm sure, in terms of their lineup.
Just saw Stephen Schumacher on the screen there, and we'll be hearing from him very, very shortly. It is a massive game here on Argyle TV. Argyle second in the table, wanting to get back to winning ways. No better place than St James Park. You can watch it all here on Argyle TV as well. £10 is what it will cost you to buy a match pass. You can get all the details from our website, pafc.co.uk. Coming next, though, we'll be hearing from the Argyle boss.
Can you pledge 35 hours for Project 35?
Pledge 35 hours for Project 35.
Pledge 35 hours for Project 35.
Well, Stephen Schumacher is one of just a handful of members of this Argyle squad, whether it's coaches or players, that were there 4 years ago in the 4-0 defeat at St James Park. He knows exactly what is at stake, not just for today, but for the remainder of the season.
It's the biggest game of the season. It's one we've been looking forward to for ages. We've had our eye on it since the fixtures were drawn. Wanted to go back there since we last got beat all them years ago, so can't wait. And what's at stake as well is so important, so yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, you mentioned the last time we went there. It's been quite a while. You obviously were part of the coaching staff then. There's a couple of players that remember it. Do you use bad experiences to try and get a good experience next time? Can you call on that sort of stuff?
You have to learn off all experiences, good and bad, for every game that you play. So remember that game in particular, we give a cheap penalty away right before half time when the game was quite tight. There wasn't a lot in the game, and then they scored after half time, straight after, from another set play. So that got their crowd right behind them, and then from then on we huffed and puffed them, and yeah, didn't manage to get anything from the game. So we can learn from that, try and make sure that we concentrate right until the whole 45 minutes, don't give anything cheap away if we can, We've done that a few times as well of late, conceded goals that we feel is a bit too easy. So that'll be the message, try and be in the game and try and get that first goal if we can, because it's so important in big derby games.
You mentioned it's the biggest game of the season. It always would have been a really important game, but considering where we are and how close we are and what's at stake, it just adds a little bit of extra spice to it, doesn't it?
It does, and I say that when the fixtures were released and we looked at it and okay, we're playing them with only 6 games to go, we knew, or 5 games to go it would have been, because Bristol Rovers has been rearranged. So yeah, we knew that could be quite feisty, and that's how it's turned out. So we can't wait for it. We need to make sure that we prepare as best as we can, try and tell the players, which I'm sure they all understand anyway, the ones who have experienced it early on in this season know how big this game is, so we need to make sure that we're at it.
You've mentioned the word emotional and emotions and stuff like that quite a lot, and it is obviously an emotional fixture, especially for supporters. You know, they look out for it. How do you use that? Because you don't want to get caught up in emotions, but you also don't want to not use them, surely, as well.
Yeah, getting the balance right, so you don't want to be over-hyped, because then you make poor decisions, but you don't want to underplay it either, because if you don't understand the importance of the game, then it's going to surprise you and catch you out, and we don't want that to happen. So trying to get the balance right, and try and give the players the information that we can, use the experience that we've got in the room, who've been in this situation against them before, and then when they go out onto the pitch, just make sure that we're fired up and ready to go. Like, that's got to be the message. We've got to compete for every ball that you can. That's the first thing you've got to do in derby games, and you've got to show that you're ready to stand up and fight, and then after that play your football when you can. It would be amazing, and that's what we're all happy coming back down the road if we can.
Interesting, kind of what Stephen Schumacher was saying in press this week about being reflective on how everybody felt after Monday. And obviously everybody was down, everybody was frustrated, everybody was a little bit nervous maybe, but he reflected on it and was like, listen, we're still on 83 points, we're still in the top 2, we've been there since October. It's not a bad place to be with 6 games left to play, is it?
No, it's sometimes hard to detach yourself, isn't it, from those emotions. And I was watching the game myself, and obviously bitterly disappointed with the result. But yeah, when we look back at the season as a whole up to this point, what a fantastic set of results it's been so far, and to find ourselves where we are in the league at this stage is just absolutely, it's amazing. If you'd have said it to anyone at the start of the season, you'd have absolutely bitten their hand off, wouldn't you? So they're right to point to those positives, and I think retaining that positive outlook is important, not just going into today's game, but for the remaining games of the season as a whole. Whatever the outcome from today, clearly everyone is absolutely desperate for us to win the game today, but whatever the outcome, it doesn't dictate the outcome of the whole season as itself. And if you lost today and got promoted, I hope there's no fans that would say they'd rather beat Exeter and not go up. But for me, it's about that broader context sometimes. So retaining that positive outlook, I think, is important.
Do you think today's game is the perfect game to have after a defeat? Because you could look at it in 2 ways and think that it could be the worst because the pressure's going to be higher because there's so much outside noise. It's a derby game. From your players or maybe even coaches' perspective, would you want this game next?
Yeah, I think we've joked a little bit ourselves this week about the cliche of form goes out the window in the derby game, and I've got no solid stats as to whether that is actually the case. For me, it's a message that serves both sides. So if you're a team that's coming into the game in good form, saying that goes out the window is perhaps helpful because it retains that focus on, right, we've got to put in another performance and we're starting from scratch here. Equally, if you're a team that's further down the league and suffering a little bit at that point, again, it's a point where you can reset. It's a derby game where there's lots of other stuff going on around it, and it really does allow you to focus minutely on this and not look any further forward than today's game.
Another thing that Stephen Schumacher said in press was about trying to cut out errors, and we saw the highlights from the game in 2019 where there was a penalty and then it kind of went down from there, and he mentioned in recent games as well, watching a couple of them here, counter-attack goals from Argyle's corners. This will clearly be a concern because it's happened more than once.
It will, and I'm sure they'll have talked about organisation from opposing set pieces and how they can perhaps give themselves more insurance, more cover. But you can also look at both these goals, and I'm sure Joe Edwards for that one, and I think you'll see Mikel Miller on this one, just a little bit of decision making here where there's no pressure on the ball. Mikel Miller didn't have any reason to go and close the player, and it's actually him that's not been able to get back and stop the player from scoring at the very end on the first one. Joe Edwards going into a challenge when perhaps if he's the last player, he needs to hold back. So as well as the kind of team organisation part of this, there's also that individual decision-making part, and that can be something they can address as well.
Yeah, I suppose the fact that the importance of the first goal is so often spoken about, and is that Argyle pushing hard to try and get the first goal and be positive and be on the front foot? And in both of the games, they'd started really well. Morecambe, they'd forced a couple of saves from the goalkeeper. Lincoln, they were on top for the first 20 odd minutes or whatever it was before that goal. Is it that sort of thing, do you think?
I think there are, we're all guilty, I think, of football fans at times of over-analysing things. And again, if Joe Edwards doesn't go in for that first challenge, he's on the halfway line, he's able to track a player, and perhaps they don't score. Argyle, who were on the ascendancy in the game at that point, are able to go on and perhaps score the first goal themselves. So those little individual bounces of the ball, individual decisions that players make can sometimes take on greater significance when they result in a goal like that, and it did then mean that in both those games Argyle was on the back foot and having to chase the game, which is really hard. Yeah,
you mentioned over-analysing it. Also, that all sort of adds to the tension as well, doesn't it? When you build something up and think, this is how we should be playing, we should be getting in front, we should be doing this, and it was spoken about again after Monday's game that I think everybody is clearly feeling the tension. But should we be enjoying the situation we're in rather than being nervous about it? Because, this is an incredible season.
Yeah, at risk of great irony, because we're sat here talking about those goals and analysing them, that's what we love about football. It's because we can all have an opinion on it. It's because we can all, read into things perhaps and make them more meaningful than they actually are. But, we're playing Exeter today, and I think that they'll have addressed those issues around the counter-attacks. They'll have certainly talked about the importance of, retaining a foothold in the game and making sure that it's us that, to all intents and purposes, go out and try and get that first goal, but not at a risk of conceding yourself. And it's a really hard balance really easy for us to sit here and say that, and a harder balance to get out on the pitch, particularly in a derby game when emotions run high.
Well, it is a derby game. It's the 114th meeting between Argyle and Exeter. And as Stephen Schumacher mentioned, the last time we went to St James Park, it didn't end particularly well. But we have had some great days there as well. Ian can testify to that, as can Luke McCormick.
It's the game, it's just for the fans, isn't it? What a big game. It's the biggest game of the season. Simple as that.
Just remember the expectation, and it's a great game to play in, but it's also the pressure and the amount riding on it does mean that it can turn out to be not so nice if things don't go your way.
The build up throughout the week, I used to love that, almost like that nervous sort of build up towards the game, which starts right at the start of the week, and and that just grows and grows the closer you get to the game. Going into the game, I used to hate the warm-up. I used to hate doing all that walking out onto the pitch stuff. You're just ready for it. And then obviously, it's about doing whatever it takes. Remember, that's the most disappointed I've ever been in any game in my whole career.
And Ian Stonebridge has surely sealed it for Plymouth Argyle.
Clearly, when they go well, you can look back on the game and say, well, I enjoy the fact that we've won there, or I'm really pleased to be able to score a goal. But I think during them, you're so absorbed in what's going on. You're trying to focus on, your job.
Game for fans, you just got to make sure that everyone with you buys into that fact that there's so much at stake here, and it's more than just a football match.
Luke, McCormick and Ian talking about previous matches at St James Park, and Ian, if we look at our record over the last 5 games played there at St James Park, we've gone in a bit of a pattern: loss, win, loss, win, loss. So in theory, we should win today, shouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely, Charlie. That's the way it goes.
That's how it works.
It has to work alternately. No, it's perhaps that shows you kind of the topsy-turvy nature of these games. Maybe that is tentative proof that form goes out the window. I don't know. But yeah, it's another game where over the years Argyle have gone there and won at important times. I think the season that we won 3-2, it maintained a really important winning run for us that ultimately led us to the championship in that season. So it's really, really vital, I think, that Argyle get on the front foot from the start of today's game, and make sure they show Exeter that despite some of those recent performances, Argyle are there to take the game to Exeter today.
If we are going on omens as well, so we got promoted the season that you scored the goal. We did the derby that year, the double, that year. We did the double in 2016-17. We saw Garita and Carey scoring at St James Park. Went up that year, beaten them once this season. I mean, I'm just trying to cling on to anything I've got, really.
No, it's those can be important things, and as much as I think the manager's involvement in a disappointing day there, in recent times, the opportunity, as we said, to go there and not only put one over on our rivals, but to put ourselves in a fantastic position in terms of the league is a great thing about today.
What will they be thinking now? Obviously, we heard Luke saying that he hated the warm-up for derby games. You kind of just wanted to get going. We can see them at the minute out there going through their paces. The ground is slowly filling up. It's getting closer and closer. What are you thinking about at this moment? Anything different to normal?
I think that there's routines. So we always had the same warm-up that you went through, the same sorts of activities, and I think like Luke, didn't enjoy. I don't think I remember enjoying warm-ups to any game, let alone a derby game. But at the same time, we can say all that about routine and about focus, but these players are all human. There's no way you can completely shut out the noise around this game. But there'll be certain players who today can harness that and reflect that in their performance, in the intensity, and in the way they go about approaching the game. And that can be the thing that makes the difference.
We're going to focus on Exeter in just a moment and hear from their manager Gary Caldwell. But if we take the perspective, their perspective for the moment, obviously the derby game you want to win it anyway, but they will be absolutely desperate, won't they, to spoil any sort of promotion campaign party. If they can dent it in any way, that their season's pretty much done. They've had a great season. They're safely in mid-table. They've got 53 points. They will be desperate to just knock Argyle's confidence, won't they?
Yeah, they will. I think as a player at Argyle, the next thing perhaps you think about once you've focused on your own performance, and Argyle this season have done that to great effect right the way across the season. The next thing is you don't want your local rivals doing well. You really don't. And so for the Exeter players, they won't be enjoying the fact that Argyle have had a good season and are currently in a position where getting promoted is a real potential for them. So yeah, like you say, they will certainly be desperate to spoil that today, and the manager will be emphasising that, I'm sure, in his messages to them.
Well, a quick reminder that you can watch the game on Argyle TV. It costs just £10 to buy your match pass on our website, pafc.co.uk. Had a message from Matthew Harrison, who is watching from LA. LA-style weather for us today here in Devon. 4 o'clock in the morning. Thanks a lot for joining us. If you're watching from wherever you are in the world and want to get in touch, you can do. You can give us a tweet at Argyle. It's lovely to see you watching from all corners of the globe. This massive, important, huge, every word you can think of game today. Anyway, we will be continuing our build-up after this, and we'll be hearing from the Exeter City manager, Gary Caldwell, too. You're watching Argyle TV with myself, Charlie Price, and Ian Stonebridge. We're building up to the Devon Derby, 12 o'clock kickoff. We're just half an hour away from all the action from St James Park. And in the home dugout will be Gary Caldwell, who tasted a Devon Derby for just his second match in charge of Exeter City here at Home Park. That one didn't go his way, and he admitted he didn't really understand the full value of the Devon Derby. A few months later, it definitely does understand what is at stake and up for grabs.
It means a lot more than it did in the second game I was here. Obviously, new club. We played on the Monday, Tuesday against Derby. Then the Devon Derby came quick after that, and so many things going on. I couldn't fully really appreciate what the game meant. I thought we played excellent in the game, gave a really good account of ourselves, but ultimately we lost, and that's, for me, the big thing in derby games is winning. You know, you have to win the game. That's what the supporters want, that's what the players want, that's what the club wants, and I think we've came a long way in just under 6 months, and I think we're more prepared for this game. We've got, you know, processes that are far better than we did for the last game, but ultimately it's all about winning. It's all about getting what the supporters want at 2 o'clock on Saturday.
Bravery and resilience, are those the two key words for you going into this game?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, if I look back to, obviously it wasn't a derby, but the Barnsley game here, big game, we needed bravery and resilience in different moments. So with the ball we have to be brave, but without the ball we have to be a resilient team, a more resilient team than we've been in the last few games, where, you know, in big games you get put under pressure and you can't control a game for 90 minutes. So in those moments we have to be a more resilient team, a team that doesn't concede goals so easily. So the players have recovered well from Monday. We'll train at the stadium today, which I think will be good to get a feel of the place. Tomorrow we'll kind of fine tune the details of what we need to do, but come Saturday morning I want them to be, like I said, fully ready but free, and really, you know, ready to go and enjoy a massive game of football.
In the context of the league table and in terms of points, there's no pressure on us at all. The pressure's surely all on Plymouth.
There's no external pressure on us, but I think there's a lot of internal pressure because we want to be the best team we can be, and that is a team that can compete at the top end of this league. The last couple of games we feel like we've let ourselves down, not for the whole game but for moments of those games. The Barnsley game was probably for me the highlight of the season in terms of a top team coming here and we stood toe to toe with them and competed, so we know we can do it. We just have to get all those details right within a 90-minute performance to turn the result in our favour. So massive internal pressure as always because we want to do our best, but externally, without a doubt, the pressure's on Plymouth, and the last few weeks they have struggled with that pressure.
Bit of fighting talk there from Gary Caldwell, talking about pressure and whether we're dealing with it or not. But just looking at those goals at the very end of that against Barnsley, I mean, no one saw that coming, really, in the entire league. Barnsley on that incredible winning run, went to St James Park, got beaten 3-1. It just goes to show what the City side can achieve.
Yeah, it does. It was during that spell where we didn't have any games, but the results were quite enjoyable, wasn't it? Yeah, Exeter have shown themselves to be more than capable, and they did that in the game here earlier in the season. So, Argyle won't be taking this lightly. Some kind of, if you like, classic manager messages there in terms of trying to take the pressure off his team and put it onto Argyle. I don't think we necessarily need, Argyle shouldn't need any more motivation, but if they do, then just the little snippet at the end there to suggest that we're not dealing with the pressure very well at the moment. Again, those little things can play into the hands of opposition teams sometimes, in that extra little bit of motivation that before they're sent out, makes a difference.
The classic saying, slap it on the dressing room wall, the quote, does actually pay some credence.
Well, again, I don't think that saying something like that necessarily does any good for his team and any harm to Argyle. If anything, it just highlights the stakes that are on offer in this game, and again could just be that extra little bit of motivating that Argyle need today.
Well, we are getting closer to kick-off, and it is building at St James Park. The nerves are kicking in here already, that is for sure. Let's have a reminder of the two sets of teams for this afternoon's game. Argyle, there you can see 6 changes made by Stephen Schumacher for today's game from the defeat against Lincoln. Niall Ennis comes back in after a spell on the sideline, starts alongside Sam Cosgrove, with Ryan Hardy dropping to the bench. There are changes in defence and midfield as well, with Galloway and Houghton coming in for Lundvik and Matete, and Saxon Early plays on the left-hand side with Mikael Miller out with a little strain. We spoke about the forward line for Argyle and what that can bring. We've gone to the midfield axis of Houghton and Butcher again. You'd say controllers. Jay Matete's proven that he can come off the bench and make an impact as well. Yeah, definitely.
If anything of the kind of selection issues, if you like, or the decisions to be made about who to pick there, Stephen Schumacher going with Houghton and Butcher in there, it's the most solid perhaps of our midfield pairings. It's exactly what you're going to get from both of those players. They're both experienced and good organisers as well, and I think going into a game like today, don't underestimate the value of having those leaders on the pitch who have a really good understanding of what the manager wants, have the discipline to hold their positions, follow instructions when necessary, and like you say, to have someone like Jay Matete as an option on the bench who can come on and perhaps offer slightly more dynamism going forwards and a better goal threat is something great to have.
Let's have a look at the Exeter City side. Speaking of experience in midfield, they are missing their experienced former Scotland international with McDonald in there, out injured with a hamstring injury. They have got Archie Collins and Harry Kite playing in the middle. Gary Caldwell's made 3 changes to his side. This is Dimitri Mitchell, Keggs Chalk and Jay Stansfield all come back in from injuries, what have you. Jay Stansfield in particular is a big boost for them. But Dimitri Mitchell might be another one, and he's come in from Hibs. He's played on the left-hand side. He's ousted Jack Sparks, who'd been a regular. Has pedigree, came through the ranks at Manchester United, scored 3 goals, got a couple of assists from that left wing-back position. And we've seen throughout the campaign how important those wing-back roles, especially in an attacking sense, can be.
Yeah, and perhaps something Argyle themselves place great onus on in terms of that opposite wing-back being a goal threat, particularly if it's the player on the other side that's doing the crossing. So yeah, Exeter I'm sure will certainly be looking to push Argyle's wing backs back and make them try to have them defending rather than offering a threat going forwards. And it was a key battle in some of those recent games, and I think again it's likely to be influential today.
Well, we are closing in on midday, which means just one thing: we're getting nearer and nearer to kick-off. Stay with us though, because build-up will continue, and we'll be chatting through the rest of League One after this. We've got just enough time in to have a few final thoughts about today's game. We've chatted in length about how to deal with pressure and how to, deal with the derby situation, the atmosphere, what have you. But if we're talking pure football, where are the matchups today? Where are the battles?
Yeah, I think we mentioned in terms of Argyle's lineup that freshness up front, perhaps the combination that we haven't seen too often of Sam Cosgrove and Niall Ennis. With Finazaz behind, I think can be, really influential for Argyle today. If we can get the ball into Finazaz in those good areas, equally we might just see some more direct football from Argyle. It's not necessarily been a style that they've used extensively across the season, but at particular times it has been productive, and clearly Sam Cosgrove and Niall Ennis strong in terms of their hold up play, strong in the air. So again, balls of that type with Finn Azaz and perhaps Saxon Early and Joe Edwards getting forwards to kind of feed on those knockdowns and the bits that come off that could be important today.
And I suppose for the likes of Finn Azaz, Niall Ennis coming back from injury, Sam Cosgrove, they haven't quite hit the heights of what we saw since they've come back from their injury problems themselves. We'll take Niall Ennis out of that conversation actually because he's only just back. But Finn was out for quite a long time. You'd argue not quite got to the same level he was before the injury. Same with Sam Cosgrove. Bit of a point to prove, and what better place to do it?
Absolutely, and for me, certainly players like Finn Azaz, that confidence can just turn on a bit of good play. So if he gets the ball early in this game and does something really positive with it, that could be something that just flicks a switch. His confidence comes flooding back, and we see more of the Finn Azaz perhaps that we saw earlier in the season. And same with Sam Cosgrove and Niall Ennis. We both know what they have to offer in terms of a goal threat, and that's crucial today. That potential to score goals, and both of them as well can create things for themselves. But I'd also like to see them playing together as a pair, and it's something that we don't see perhaps as often in football these days. But getting close to each other. So again, when the ball goes up to one, the other's close by, anticipating knock-ons perhaps to put that extra defence under pressure. And again, I think that's something that I'm definitely hoping to see today.
You've kind of answered this question already, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do Argyle have to win today? Now, I'm not saying, obviously, in terms of if they don't win, there's no chance of them getting promoted, but just in terms of momentum, confidence, feeling around the place?
Well, yeah, regardless of who we're playing today, the stage of the season and the situation we find ourselves in terms of the table, that phrase, which is probably bandied around too often, must win, would you've got to say it does apply. From a point of view of momentum and going into those last three games, which again on paper, you might suggest in terms of the league table could be straightforward, but they're definitely not going to be that way because of the situation that teams find themselves in. And so for Argyle going into today, it's just that it's a performance. It's about getting the level of intensity right for a derby game, but also about remembering, there's a reason why they're in the position they are in the league, and to do the things that put them there in the first place, along with that little bit of extra that's needed, because with a derby game being today, that's I think what we can see. You've
been in the position where you are within touching distance of achieving something special, a promotion, having played so well throughout the rest of the season. Does it change slightly when you do get closer towards the end of the season, just mentally, as much as you think it won't? Does it?
Well, listen, you can try and talk about these things as if they're conscious and that you're aware of them, and certainly the message that the manager has put out all season has always been, right, the next game, that's what we can control. We need to put in that performance when we go out in the next game. But as we said earlier on, everyone's human. The excitement and the potential of the league position as it stands at the moment is absolutely brilliant. It's fantastic, and it would just be great to see the team take that on. Yes, through today's game, but also to if you like finish off the job through the rest of the season.
Well, let's have a little look at the other games that are taking place today. Then there is another early kick-off. Cambridge and Peterborough kick off half an hour after us at 12:30. But looking down this sheet at the moment, the three sides that are battling it out with Argyle are on there. Sheffield Wednesday at Burton, Barnsley against Forest Green, Ipswich against Charlton. We'll be keeping a keen eye on them, Ian, but they're not necessarily. I mean, no game is a gimme right now, but Ipswich at home, they dropped points for the first time in 8, I think it was, on Monday. They'll be looking to bounce back. Sheffield Wednesday obviously know that they have to get out of the little rot that they're in. Not every side is flying full tilt at the moment.
No, they're not, and we've talked about pressure quite a lot today, and in the build-up to this game, and I think we think we're under pressure. Some of those other clubs, by the way, with the money they've spent, the players they've brought in, and the size and the expectancy that the supporters base have because of their recent history, is immense. And so, as much as we're feeling we're under a bit of pressure, things are not perhaps going as well as they could have been in just those recent games. But ultimately, for Argyle, what an opportunity, and see the positives in that as opposed to feeling that as a kind of negative weight.
How are you feeling?
I'm getting nervous. I'm excited. I'm really confident in this squad. Across this season, they've shown us time and time again what a good team they are, and I'm really hopeful and confident they'll go out and show that today.
Let's hope so. We are almost ready. We're pretty much done for the build-up. It is now over to the game. A reminder that if you want to watch this game on Argyle TV, you can, of course. A match pass will cost you just £10. You can find all the details on our website, pafc.co.uk. But it is time to strap yourselves in, because coming up next, it's the Devon Derby.
Bad ball in. Good goal. Caution. Progress into the second division.
Can you pledge 35 hours for Project 35?
Pledge 35 hours for Project 35.
Pledge 35 hours for Project 35.
Pledge 35 for Project 35.
Pledge 35 hours for Project 35.
Pledge 35 hours for Project 35.
Please can you pledge 35 hours for Project 35?
Argyle is evergreen.
It's in our DNA.
It's been passed down generations.
Mothers and daughters.
Fathers and sons.
From the seats of Home Park
to all corner of the globe.
It's the miles travelled.
It's the hours online.
It's the devotion of the Green Army.
Together, we've shared every emotion.
Our West Country spirit remains ever strong.
Get on, Janners.
We are Pasties, Pints and Pilgrim Pete.
It's time to embrace our past.
And inspire the Argyle future.
The club that Bob Jack built.
The pioneering spirit.
And class of Jack Leslie.
The great Pele graced our pitch.
We are Mariner, Rafferty, Waiters and Randall.
Memories of the road to Villa Park.
Giselle is on the near post, comes away, and Cherry in trouble, it's straight in!
The goals of Tommy Tynan.
And there it is! The goal that Argyle so deserves, scored by Tommy Tynan.
And the Home Park roar.
Warnock, Morget and Wembley dreams.
It's the trophy for more than 30,000 Devon supporters.
Luggy took us back up the leagues.
Hodges, they're all very compact there. Freo, oh, he's going to go through on his own. He's broken in the fans. 2-0. That's it. Argyle are up.
The magnificent Magyars.
And then the brink of extinction.
We rose once more.
The Green Army united.
Our fans are our foundation.
Now marching forward together.
begin a new Argyle era.
With an exciting future ahead.
At all levels.
At all ages.
We are a team, a club and a community.
It's what makes Argyle special.
Evergreen is a new way to support our club.
Be it from near
or from afar.
A membership to fast track our future.
I am Evergreen.
I am Evergreen.
I am Evergreen.
and I am Evergreen.
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 We are Evergreen!
I am Evergreen.
We are Evergreen!
I am Evergreen.
We are Evergreen!
I am Evergreen.
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 I'm Evergreen.
Be the difference.
on the edge of the area, gets it onto his left foot.
Good morning. Whether you